All right, let's jump right in. When you think of a rock, you probably picture something totally solid, dense, something you can't get through. But what's wild is that deep underground, certain kinds of rock act less like a solid stone and more like a treasure chest, one that's holding incredible amounts of oil and natural gas.
So that brings up the big question, right? How on earth can something that seems completely solid actually be a container? How does it hold all of that valuable stuff? It really feels like a paradox.
And the answer, well, it's actually pretty simple when you think about it. The secret is that this rock, this reservoir rock, isn't really solid at all. If you could zoom in to a microscopic level, you'd see it's filled with tons of tiny, empty spaces. It's much more like a sponge. And the sponge idea? It's the key to understanding, well, everything we're about to talk about.
So, okay, if it's a sponge, the very first thing an engineer is going to ask is, how good of a sponge is it? How much space does it actually have inside?
And that property, that's what we call porosity. It's really just a simple percentage that tells us how much of that rock is empty space. The higher the porosity, the bigger the treasure chest, and that means more room to hold what could be millions of dollars worth of oil and gas.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Just having empty space, that's not quite enough. Not all of those tiny little voids are actually useful to us.
We have to make a really important distinction here. On one hand, you've got absolute porosity. Think of that as counting every single tiny hole, even the ones that are totally sealed off and isolated. But then you have effective porosity, and that's the one we really care about. It only counts the pores that are actually connected to each other, creating a whole network that fluids can move through.
I mean, think about it. You can't get oil out of a sealed-off bubble inside a rock, right? Confusing these two numbers is a huge mistake, a potentially billion-dollar mistake. So for petroleum engineers, the only number that really counts is effective porosity. That is the real storage capacity of our treasure chest.
Okay, so we've established the size of our container. The next logical question has to be, what's inside it? Is it packed to the brim with oil? And this brings us to the idea of saturation. It's simply the percentage of that useful pore space that's filled up by a specific fluid, whether that's oil, natural gas, or water.
Now here's the crucial point, that pore space is always 100% full. There's no vacuum, no empty space down there. It's always some combination of oil, gas, and water. So if you add up their individual saturations, it always equals 1, or 100%. And there's almost always this surprise guest in the mix. See, way before any oil and gas showed up, that rock was completely filled with water. And some of that original, ancient water, we call it connate water, it gets trapped and never ever leaves. It's just stuck to the rock grains, taking up space that could have been filled with treasure. So now we've got a porous rock that's filled with both oil and water. But why don't they just separate out perfectly based on density? What's holding everything in place? This is where the physics gets really cool. It all starts with a property called wettability. The easiest way to think about this is just as stickiness. It basically describes which fluid, the oil or the water, prefers to cling to the solid rock surfaces. And this slide illustrates the concept perfectly. We measure this wettability with something called the contact angle. See how the water droplet spreads out on the glass? That low angle means it's water wet. It loves that surface. But look at the mercury. It beads up into a tight little ball. That's a high angle. It's non-wetting. Now the key here is that most oil reservoirs are naturally water wet, which means water is the fluid that really wants to cling to the rock.
This stickiness leads directly to capillary action. It's the exact same force that lets a paper towel soak up a spill, seemingly against gravity. The wetting fluid, which is usually water, gets drawn into the tiniest little pore spaces, clinging to the walls and resisting being pushed out.
So because the water is stickier to the rock, it creates this pressure difference between itself and the oil. We call this capillary pressure. It's this invisible force field that holds everything in place, trapping the oil inside all those tiny pore spaces. This graph shows something pretty incredible. As oil moves into the rock and starts pushing water out, that last little bit of water holds on for dear life. To get rid of it, the pressure would have to skyrocket to an almost infinite level. It's basically physically impossible to remove all of it. And that is exactly why we always have that irreducible connate water we talked about just a minute ago.
Okay, so we've covered all these microscopic properties. Now, let's zoom all the way out and see how these tiny little forces come together to build the entire structure of an underground oil reservoir.
It's really amazing when you think about it. These tiny, microscopic forces of wettability and surface tension, all acting in trillions and trillions of pores, they all add up to create this massive, predictable structure
that can be miles wide and hundreds of feet thick.
And this structure is typically organized into 3 distinct zones. Way down at the bottom, you have the water zone, where the pores are 100% full of water. Up at the top, you have your main pay zone, filled with oil or gas, plus that leftover connate water. And right in between them is this critical area called the transition zone.
And this is the payoff. This is it. These diagrams show it all. The height above what we call the free water level determines the capillary pressure. That pressure, in turn, dictates how much water is in the pores. This is what creates that transition zone, where the amount of water gradually decreases as you go up, until you finally hit that irreducible minimum in the main oil zone. This is the treasure map.
So here's the bottom line. Porosity tells us how big the treasure chest is. Saturation tells us how much treasure is actually inside it. And capillary pressure explains how that treasure is arranged and just how tightly it's being held in place. You have to understand all 3 to know if you've really found something valuable.
So we've figured out how the rock holds the oil. We know how to read the treasure map. But all of this just tells us what's there. The next huge question is, how easily can we actually get it out? And that, well, that's a story for another time.